welcome. My name is Dr. Allan Hughes. I am a chiropractor. I practice in Millbury. And good morning to those of you who are joining us via video this morning. There's no penalty for showing up. You know, we're going to put you in the front row. You remember in school? I mean, we were always, let's sit in the back. They won't call on us, you know. How does this continue to extend into our adult lives? But it does. We're here to talk about fly fishing in the Great North Woods. And I'm glad to, no? Oh, you're here for meditation. Previous meditators of any kind. Good. Good. We're going to talk about a type of meditation called Jyoti Meditation, J-Y-O-T-I. Just means meditation on the inner light. At the conclusion, when we're finished with our meditation, I'm going to hand you out some instructions so that you can take them home. The instructions are very helpful for you in terms of keeping your focus and kind of retaining the things that we talk about here today. So the title of our program is Meditation for Healthy Living. So that struck me that I should break this down in three components. One would be for what meditation is all about. The other is positive attitude. And the other is food for the soul. These were things that were in the intro. So I started meditating back when it was considered to be slightly controversial. And to see the changes that have taken place in meditation over the years has been very heartening. I frequently look for new examples of studies and things of this sort that talk about meditation. The first studies that I knew of go back to the 1970s, and many of you have heard of transcendental meditation. They were really the first ones to start research on what exactly happens to meditation and how we can best utilize it. Well, fast forward up to, let's see, between 2012 and 2017, reports from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention talk about the two the two most popular alternative health approaches in the United States. And yoga is one, and meditation is another. So we're in sync with something that is very, very necessary, not necessarily more so now. We always could use an understanding of what meditation is. The idea that we in this area live 40 or so miles from some of the major research centers in the United States. And in those research centers, meditation has taken a front seat in terms of what actually is accomplished through meditation. And studies that have been begun in the 2011 vicinity by some Mass General and Harvard Medical School neuroscientists have shown the way that when we sit to meditate, it is not just us sitting, we are actually making positive changes in our brain. I mean, this stuff is very exciting because it tells us that we are connecting to something that is already within us. We don't have to be in a special club. We don't have to have any particular kind of educational background. We have to have the desire to want to know what it's like and to be inquisitive as to what it would be like to sit and instead of taking in all of this, all of the externals that our senses bring to us, what we would do instead is tune down all those influences and listen carefully to what's going on within us. One of the interesting reports, facets of this particular report, talked about meditation for children. They've got some preliminary studies that are, these studies were published in the Journal of Child Psychology and Psychiatry. And they found that there were significant positive effects on executive functioning, attention, depression, anxiety, stress, and negative behaviors in children. So the idea that we are doing something that is strictly for grown-ups, strictly for adults, kids are great as meditators. You know, they're in the moment. They're in this living present moment. And they're not too worried about things that happened before. They're not wondering about what might happen in the future. And in essence, when we sit with children and meditate with them, they present us the easiest pathway toward how to actually do this effectively. Because they just sit and we give them the instructions and they're right there. It takes us a while to get there because we have all these distractions, all these things that are kind of pulling at us, saying, you know, hey, did you hear about this? Did you see that? Did you taste that? All of those things have been going on all of our lives. And so we are so used to engaging our senses and seeing the things that are happening out here that we sometimes forget that located within this rather complicated series of structures within this 8 to 10 pound bowling ball that we hold around on our necks is some really fascinating information and connections. So by us meditating, what we do is we withdraw our attention from all of the circumstances and we organize all that energy that went out from our senses. We bring that energy back under our control, back to a particular place in the body. The place that we're going to talk about today is a place between and behind the eyebrows. We're going to, by the way, when I finish yapping here, we're going to actually sit and practice meditation for a while, and then I'll open it up for questions or comments. And I will be available at the end if someone wants to speak privately. But that's the essence of this particular meditation. So it goes like this. We sit in a chair or someplace that's nice and comfortable. We could be a couch. Some people like to sit on cushions, you know, on the floor. As long as your backs are straight. You know, I'm a chiropractor. That's kind of important to make sure your posture is good, right? And we make sure that our electronic devices are turned off or put in the other room. And the same goes for Fido and Fifi, too. Any animals that are lingering around, please put them in another room. We're looking for a peacefulness within the place that we are. And this particular meditation says, okay, find a place that sits comfortably. You close your eyes gently. And remember that your focus is here, but bring your attention when your eyes close to a place out about 6-8 inches away from the bridge of your nose. This will keep you from trying to focus real hard to get your attention here. It will allow the eyes to close and for you not to put pressure on your forehead. All right, so it's nice and quiet, sitting nice and relaxed. We close our eyes. We bring our attention and our focus to this particular point. That's it. Well done. Thanks a lot for coming. I appreciate it. It's all good. There are contained within the simplicities of meditation, the difficulties and the reasons why people who have tried to meditate have difficulty continuing it. It's that next step. And the next step has to do with how do we turn off all of those influences? How do we silence the mind? I mean, it's the proverbial, if you don't want to think about the elephant in the room, then cast your attention someplace else, because that's all you're going to be able to think about is the elephant in the room. We're trained, we have trained ourselves to listen carefully to what goes on out there. We've forgotten how we used to be able to, when we played by ourselves when we were younger, when we spend time by ourselves. Some of us enjoy doing that. But the idea is there is a sweetness about that experience. There is something that is uplifting, soothing to us, if you will, because we get all kinds of things that come at us. Well, how are we supposed to tune down all of those influences? One of the particular ways in meditation that we can tune down all those influences is to recognize that we will not browbeat our minds into submission. Our minds will win. Our minds are us. They're part of us. But we feel like we're in opposition to our minds sometimes. So a great meditation teacher came up with a couple of really good suggestions. And one was to befriend the mind, to give the mind something to do so that we can fully attend to this task. And the something that we ask the mind to do is to create a word or words that we'll use. It's referred to as a mantra. It has many other names. When we use this word, we say this word over and over again, inside, tongue of thought. And by doing that, we find a way to harness the energy of the mind and direct it in a positive direction. If we don't, we all know what will happen. The mind, thought. I mean, they just keep coming. You know, especially when we try not to think about something. Then they're going to really roll at us. Well, truth be told, the mind is not much interested in us sitting around and being idle, if you will. The mind enjoys engaging the senses for us, you know, pulling all of our attention, our focus. Our task is to uproot our attention from a particular place, and by a conscious present time thought that we have, that we control, by the way, that we uproot our attention to a different place. When we make that decision, it's very powerful. It's a very powerful statement that we're making to the mind, stating that this is important. I want to use this time to accomplish this task. When we say that by our actions, some of us need to say it by our words, but it's that bringing the mind around in that sort of loving, cooperative way that will really accomplish this task. This meditation teacher had a couple of other suggestions. So when we sit, you know, when we're quiet and we are just trying to sift through, you know, I mean, portions of our day, remembering phone calls that we didn't make or anticipating things that might happen, you know, in the coming days or weeks. They're really hard for us to filter out. So a suggestion was to imagine that there are two drawers. One drawer is labeled thoughts. The other drawer is labeled meditation. When we sit and we're all composed and we're ready, we have a thought. Imagine that that thought is converted to, say, a 3x5 card. Some of you may not know what 3x5 cards are, but they were good back in their day. And imagine that you put this thing on, this thought on this card, and you deposit it. You open the drawer and you put it in the drawer. And then you're back in your present time position, thinking. Another thought comes up, open the drawer. The idea is, once we have really settled and the thoughts now seem more controlled, now we open the drawer labeled meditation. It's a powerful message that we give to the subconscious, which is feeding us. That's where the mind is at its peak of power, and it's feeding us all of this stuff. But once we open that drawer, we're making that present time conscious statement of, this is important, I want to do this meditation. Please say these names or name or names for me to keep occupied. We then start the process. Consider this. One of the things that the researchers found is that the benefits of meditation begin as soon as we are gathered to begin meditating. Imagine that we are sitting at a door, and that the mere action that we have put in place by sitting at that door and by being ready to meditate opens this door. And I should mention at this point, Jyoti Meditation is one of hundreds of different types of meditations. I want you to know that I support them all. We need more types of meditation. People find different ways to do things. There are some that are very physical. There are some that involve candles or light or burning incense or things of this sort. This particular one says, Jyoti says, if we tune down all of those things, we retain more of that power ourselves to bring to our focal point. So we are, I'm sorry, the point I wanted to make was that there we are sitting at the door and we have opened that door. That's the beginning of the change that takes place in us. It's right then and right there that the benefits of meditation start coming our way. It's important to know this is what the researchers found, that they took a group of people in this initial study, and for, I think it was 8 weeks, they had them meditate for a particular amount of time per day. It was mindfulness meditation. Many of you have heard of that. And at the end of the 8 weeks, they did a post follow-up. They did a pre-follow-up with blood work and MRIs and that sort of thing. And what they discovered were the changes that took place in these people took place with them meditating on a daily basis about 27 minutes. That's not very long. We waste more time than that doing all different kinds of things. These people used on average about 27 minutes. And what was discovered by the researchers was that the benefit that these people were accruing, or the skill they were developing, began with their decision to sit. That's why that decision is so important. So we in the West have great difficulty with this notion of sitting and not accomplishing anything. We think we're wasting time, you know. These studies, by the way, the study in 2011 has given birth to all different kinds of studies in all different kinds of places. But these studies are showing us that not only are we accomplishing something, but we are actually nurturing our brain, our central nervous system. Many previous studies over years have talked about blood pressure regulation, about blood sugar regulation, about respiratory changes that can take place, all in a very positive way. So there's plenty of reasons for us to want to do this. And the chief reason that people don't is that they can't corral their thoughts. Their thoughts keep interjecting themselves, and eventually people get frustrated and they stop. This particular method of befriending the mind, of using these words to occupy the mind, gives us the opportunity to be front and center with our intention. Remember our intention? We said we were going to sit and meditate, and we open the drawer and that sort of thing. That becomes a powerful, motivating force for us. For some people, it happens right away. They close their eyes, they start meditating, they choose a word or words, and I'll mention more about that in a minute. And they have these wonderful experiences. That's great. It doesn't happen for most of us like that. Most of us have to work at this a little bit. And the uneven nature of how daily events, weekly events take place, that uneven nature pulls at our attention. There are times when we're more clearly focused. There are times when we struggle more. That's life, isn't it? You know, up and down. It's important to know that we are not being graded by anyone for any reason. This is all about us, folks. This is all about enhancing our experience. This should be an add-on to any of the things that we do to enhance our self-satisfaction. And indeed it can be if we remember that the self-critic, which is a very, very powerful tool, we're not easy on ourselves. We tend to find fault with ourselves pretty quickly and sometimes very decisively. And the calming of that kind of reflex action to criticize ourselves for sitting and not doing anything is to know that people for thousands of years have been doing this, and that people hundreds, thousands of years from now will continue to be doing this. So we're joining a rather extensive group of people who have experienced these things. So I mentioned word or words. These words can be something that you can say in sequence. They might be from your cultural traditions. They might be from literature that you're aware of. They might be the names of concepts or places like peace or love or nature, any of those sorts of things. What you want to do is select a name or names that you can say over and over without attaching thought to them. Some people use the faces of loved ones or the names or whatever, and they'll say them. But the mind sometimes will jump in and oh, remember when we did this and did that, and all of a sudden, whoop, and you're on your way. The mind is taken over again. It is very, very clever. And it's us, so, how much can we criticize? But the mind will try to do that. The name or names that you choose can be in sequence, there can be multiple number of names, it can be one name. What you do is you say it with the tongue of thought. And you say it with the intent of eliminating that feedback that happens from the mind. I can give you an idea. I'm going to use the word peace, just as an example. And I'm going to say that word in cadence, in rhythm. You're using this to keep the mind, to keep the thoughts to the side. That's the purpose in using this. And it's a loving use of a term. We've chosen the term, so it's our term. And it's an understanding that there's a loving discipline associated with us doing this. So, the word peace. 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 The difference in the cadence is that there are thoughts that are going to come, and when that thought starts to come, drop that word in place. Keep your concentration on that thought and on keeping your visual process in that one particular place. That's all we have to do with this particular thing. And we've already entered, we've opened that door, and we are now going to experience what people who have meditated for centuries have experienced. Some of what people talk about when they close their eyes is the sense of just relaxation and physical disengagement of all that tension that we carry. You know, many of us carry it up here, some of us carry it in our lower backs. It's the reduction of all of that that people report, and they feel pretty quickly with this. If that were the sum total of the benefit of meditation, that would be a great thing, because we carry a lot of tension with us about various things and for various reasons. But it's not. It's a byproduct of the action that we're doing. And what we're looking for is to understand the deepening experience that can be obtained in meditation. So the images that we may see when our eyes are closed are of different colors. Those colors could be of the dark shades. They could be of the lighter shades. They could be kind of in swirl patterns. Remember kaleidoscopes? We used to turn that thing. Well, some people report that the colors come at them like that. Sometimes they appear to be in the periphery of our vision. Well, now remember, the periphery of my vision with these eyes is about like yay. But I'm not using these eyes. We're using a set of inner eyes, and they don't have any boundaries. But we are creatures of habit, and if we see something in the periphery, we're going to be sitting, and our tendency is going to be to turn to see where that's coming from. Instead, retrain yourself to redouble your efforts of saying your name or names. And many times that image is going to come down from the periphery right into the line of your inner vision. And what you experience when that happens is that deepening sense of rest and peacefulness that people talk about in meditation. There are other images that people can have when they sit for a long time. There are a whole listing of things, if you will, inner stars and inner suns and following those particular things, we use the same example. We say our name, we keep our focus here, we let our eyes close so that there's not tension on the forehead, and we at one and the same time are the force that is generating all of this, and yet we are the observer also. It's an interesting concept. It's not something that typically we can do with actions, but in this case, we're the ones who create it, and we're the ones who observe what's going on when we do create it. So, if that is so, if we are now in a restful place, and research has told us that after a half hour of daily meditation, some amazing things can happen. People have asked, well, what if I have to be someplace? Should I set an alarm? Absolutely. But think of a time when you don't need to set the alarm. Think of a time when you can just sit and let this experience play out in a more relaxed way. You don't have anything on the back end of this particular meditation, so sit. 45 minutes, an hour, hour and a half. It sounds far-fetched that we could actually sit for that long, but the relaxation that happens in our bodies when we do that makes it a different kind of experience than just sitting in a chair in a lecture, for example. We are active when we are meditating. The whole process is hidden from view, but we are very active. It's a very active state. Some people have asked, well, should I share the experiences that I have, when I'm meditating with friends, with family? And my response to that is, if you're comfortable doing that, by all means. But know for certain that these are private experiences and that we can hold them as private experiences. It depends, some of it depends on our personalities also. There's the main task here is that we are not in competition with anyone or with ourselves. That the previous 3 meditation sessions that we sat and we closed our eyes and what we saw was darkness and nothing but. We're not competing with that and saying, well, I got to accomplish something here. I want this meditation to be more meaningful, so I'm gonna concentrate all that harder. No, we're not. Because the key to this is understanding that we don't have to push ourselves with this. This process will happen. If we allow it to, this process will happen and will unfold for us in this most unusual way. We become explorers, just in a different place than we're used to exploring. So I'm going to, I was going to mention about this Harvard study that was done, a 75-year Harvard study that was done. And it was done with the intent of finding out what people really carried forward with this. And the researchers came up with a line. And the line says, good relationships keep us happier and healthier, period. So for all of, this is getting back to our theme I was talking about before, that working with other people and being with other people is when we are at our best. And the altruism of volunteering, the giving that we do without expecting anything in return, we're at our best when we do that. We feel good. And those are the most important values that some of these studies, have found. So before I give you the instructions, I'm going to read a very short poem that was written by a knowledgeable meditation teacher. And then I'm going to read the instructions. We will sit in meditation. Well, let's see. They said the library was open till 5. Did we stay that long? Is that okay? 4. 15, 20 minutes. Okay? We'll start off. And at the end of that, I'll, again, ask for comments or questions and give you the information that you can take with you. But this will kind of set the table for us, if you will. Life itself is restless for peace in the world. Let its noble dream materialize. May the garden be illumined with wave after wave of light. May the wealth of love grow greater and greater and enrich every heart. Meditation is a process whereby we withdraw our attention from the outer world and concentrate it at a very specific place in our bodies. By doing this, we can transcend physical consciousness and experience ourselves in ways that perhaps we haven't in a very long time. To practice meditation, we sit in any pose that we find most comfortable, in which we can sit for a long time without moving. We should sit so that no part of our body touches anyone, as this would disturb our concentration. We should close our eyes gently, focusing our attention into the middle of the darkness lying in front of us. That which sees the darkness is not our physical eyes, but is the third or single eye located between and behind the eyebrow. Continue focusing your attention into the middle of what you see. Please repeat any name or names that you have chosen. Repeat those names slowly with the tongue of thought. This repetition will keep the mind occupied and prevent it from wandering. When light or any inner vista occurs, continue focusing your attention into the middle of what you see and continue repeating the name or names that you've chosen. All of these things, we don't have these perfect oases in our home. There's going to be noise that we're going to have to deal with. The challenge of the mind continues to be how amazingly adept it is at swinging our attention away from this. I had been meditating, I don't know, maybe 6 months or something. One day I sat down. Nice and quiet. Everything was going great. I was sitting. And all of a sudden, and my eyes flew open, and I took this deep breath, and I said, oh, I forgot to breathe. I can't believe this. I didn't forget to breathe. How is it that every night before that moment, I never forgot to breathe? How is it that all day until that moment, I didn't forget to breathe? The mind is amazing. I mean, it confuses, it is, and we can't yell at it. It's us. We created it. But we can slowly, over time, know for certain that practicing this idea of exercising our control is going to be beneficial for us. Control is important for all of us. We kind of say, well, but it really is. This is the ultimate self-control. We control all the parameters of this experience. If we're meditating and we have, something confusing, goes on while we meditate, just open your eyes, take a look around, realize everything is okay. Take a couple of deep breaths, close your eyes, start again. Again, there are some days when the list or things that you forgot to take care of, they come up. I mean, it's just like this endless series of things. All I can tell you is that it is worth the effort, because we are worth the effort. And this is a help to us. This is a real assist to us. And even if the days or weeks go by and we're practicing and we don't seem to be accomplishing something, eventually you're going to sit and you're going to, before you even sit, you're going to anticipate that this meditation is going to be helpful. Because some things change. Some things change in us when we meditate on a regular basis. And people will sometimes notice that and ask us, hey, what's different about you? You seem different somehow. Nice. You can smile and say, no, everything's the same. Or you can share with them if you like. But this is real. We can accomplish this. And it's worth the effort. Lying down is perfectly acceptable. Even when people are sick, they can meditate. Lying down provides all of the physical signals that our body needs in order to really rest. We're going to go to sleep. Most of the time, when we're meditating and our heads are kind of bobbing, it's because we're tired. And the fatigue, as we start to relax, the fatigue automatically pulls at the head and causes our head to kind of do that. Many people have good experiences meditating lying down. Some people have asked, well, can I do this at night before I go to sleep as a way to kind of prepare? Absolutely. It's great. Understand that we are all operating in some form of sleep debt. That's the new term, by the way. You used to call it deprivation. Now it's debt. Bad enough we have credit card debt, we have mortgage debt. Now we've got sleep debt. We're all operating with less sleep or less productive sleep than we need. And our bodies crave it. And so what happens? When we put ourselves in a physical position where we are calm and relaxed, the body's going to jump on that and say, oh, she's relaxed. He's sitting calmly. So sometimes, if this happens repeatedly where your head's bobbing or you lie down and meditate and you fall asleep, take a nap. That's what the body's saying. Relax. You need some rest. And at a point in time, when you sit and meditate, you'll notice that you'll be able to sit for long periods of time. But if it's a constant struggle, then you know you need to rest some. And there's nothing wrong with that. For the reasons that I mentioned earlier, I think guided meditations are great. People have asked, well, what about walking meditations, the ones, in the fields, in nature? Some people like to get up and move around or things. Right. Other of the guided meditations are through listening to someone's voice, to going through an active process of physically relaxing the body, or going through and visualizing ourselves at a place of great pleasure to us. Someplace warm, someplace cold, wherever it is that we find that sort of enjoyment. Those processes work. Once again, it's engaging the mind and asking the mind to participate, which opens the mind up and says, oh yeah, let me drop this thought in there. And that's the That's the confusing part of guided imagery. To prepare ourselves to meditate in the fashion in which we practice today, by using guided imagery, by reading poems, by singing a hymn or that sort of thing, it's great. Because it kind of, it just like I said, it prepares the ground a little bit. Eventually, to come to the place where the senses are at rest and all of that energy is being directed and pulled back here, will give you great power of concentration. It takes a while. It takes a while. Anyway, thank you all for your attention. Thank you for coming, and thank you for your attention.